Welcome back to Bitcoin Treasuries. I'm Tim Kotzman here with British and Gladiator. How are you guys doing this fine day?
I'm doing
Awesome.
good. Yeah.
11:05 p.m. and I'm here with you.
Yeah,
So,
I'm doing good, but I don't think British Hodl's bullish enough. So I want to make sure let's do a couple things today. One, let's get his outlook on MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, and two, we got to get a sense of his T levels because I'm concerned for his T levels because he's not bullish enough.
Me
okay.
and your father discussed your T levels at Michael Saylor's party. Don't you worry, little boy. It's good over here. We got to worry about yours.
My T levels are just fine, British.
In the basement. You know, the longer you stay in the basement,
I don't
the
know.
longer the T levels go.
I don't know. There's studies that show that if you don't have a girlfriend, your T levels rise.
Is that right? Not with those Anne Frank style glasses you have over
Hey, you're wearing glasses too, buddy.
there. Not that style. You got cat's eyes glasses.
What do you guys think about DeepSeek? Is it a bunch of noise about nothing, or is it really going to drive, I continue to drive markets, I guess you'd say at this point? You guys have any thoughts on that?
So I don't even know. I saw that came out today. Like, what even happened with that? I guess one of you guys could explain that.
Right.
British,
Okay.
over to
Well,
you.
yeah, this is the single most important development for U.S. Um, tech markets in a very, very long time. So what happened was China waited until President Trump took office to basically highlight how any of the sanctions that was set by the Biden administration had no impact. They basically created a model that is as good as OpenAI based on independent read. I'm not an AI expert, right? So I'm basing my thoughts on what other AI experts have said. A model that is as good as OpenAI's model for a fraction of the cost of AI of OpenAI's model. The cost of training this thing just went down from $100 million to $5 or $6 million. It went down from using 50,000 of NVIDIA's GPUs down to 2,000 GPUs. These GPUs, you can use the GPU that's in your current MacBook basically to train this thing, which wasn't the case. And they've basically rugged the entire AI industry of the United States. Now, what a lot of American propagandists will say at this point is that, yeah, but this is China, so it's controlled, it's CCP funded, et cetera, et cetera. But they've open sourced it. So you can go and have a look at all of the code. You can run this entire thing on any computer you want in the world. And they've basically demonstrated that all your sanctions can go fuck themselves because we've just out innovated the United States of America, and they've made a significant dent in doing so. Now, why, in my opinion, is this good for Bitcoin? Because the one thing that people haven't understood about Bitcoin and MSTR is that these are growth companies. Growth is what investors seek. Growth is what is missing in capital markets. And so what this tells you is that you are no longer safe investing in American tech companies because China might be developing something that they can just launch out there and immediately rug your entire investment. So now it is no longer safe to invest in any of these growth companies. It is no longer safe to invest in Nvidia at this crazy multiple. It's no longer safe to rely on your future wealth being protected by Nvidia's GPU sales. What you need is Bitcoin. What you need is something that's safe, reliable, consistent, that is never going to let you down, and is absolutely limited in supply. And so as this seeps through consciousness, you're going to see investors go, wait a second, we need to increase our allocation to Bitcoin, not decrease it, because this is what is going to guarantee me growth. And this is only good for Bitcoin and MSTR in the longer term.
So
So that's a
did Nvidia go down today on this news? You
couple
know?
points,
Okay.
couple dollars.
Um, but yeah, I agree that I feel like the AI stuff has already taken off so much, and this is obviously going to could potentially be bearish for it. But Bitcoin and MicroStrategy in particular, I think is still very, very early, and that's where the most upside potential is.
Nvidia is down 17.6% as we're speaking right now.
Today?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
way.
Welcome to the real world.
I gotta see this. My computer's behind the. Oh my God, you're right. British Hodl, that's my quant right there. This guy, British Hodl, he knows everything. Nvidia dropped 17%. He knows the models why. So yeah, basically, long story short, get out of Nvidia, full port Bitcoin, maybe MSTR. That's all you gotta know.
British, what first of all, I watched the Retail Roadshow presentation by Michael Saylor this morning. Do you have any thoughts on the new Perpetual preferred stock offering, Strike STRK, that looks to be rolling out this week and coming to market, public markets, and probably end of the week?
Yeah, so I haven't watched that. I've been busy today, so I haven't watched that yet, but I will do. But just my initial thoughts on a dividend offering. This makes this, MSTR now a dividend paying stock, basically. If you want some preferred stock, so it's now going to get more and more institutional cap. Again, he promised creative financing at the tail end of last year, and this is creative financing. They went for the higher issue of shares. Now they can do this, and they can basically try and get as much capital from fixed income, from dividend portfolios, from growth portfolios. They added another 10K Bitcoin today, which is basically taking down the ATM to, I think, $3.5 to $4 billion left on the ATM. As soon as that's flushed out, we've now got $18 billion of converts to do. So yeah, there is a lot happening here for MSTR and the train to acquire more and more Bitcoin. And again, Tim, we spoke about this in the last conversation you and I had. The most important thing for MSTR is to remain interesting. And that word interesting is going to guide the entire year for MSTR. And this is another way to keep this stock interesting. It is now there is now a dividend preferred stock dividend option that makes MSTR more interesting. So what's the next thing that he could do to keep this more and more interesting? And that's abruptly shift from ATM to acquire Bitcoin to convertible notes to acquire Bitcoin. And that's coming next.
The thing that caught my eye is that in addition to what I almost think of as the initial offering, which I think is 2.5 million shares at, call it $100, so that's 250 million, that they can issue a shelf registration and then sell shares at the market of these preferred shares. So does that, in essence, almost make MicroStrategy like turbocharged? Like, people were complaining about the ATM, now they can complain about like 2 ATMs? Or how do you think about that?
I need to dig into that more. I can't give you a good enough answer on that yet. Like I said, I haven't dug into the presentation.
But to your point, I mean, talk about keeping something interesting, like having 2 ATMs going that through 2 public tickers.
One of the ATMs coming to an end, right? So if what you're saying is correct, then one of these ATMs within the next 2 to 4 weeks is coming to an end at the clip that they're going. Remember, he hasn't got unlimited ATM permission. Mm-hmm. What he has is the ability to sell $21 billion. As soon as that $21 billion comes to an end, he has to stop doing the ATMs, which, by the way, if you were an institutional investor trying to line up convertible bond deals, you want him to flush out the ATM, crash the share price as much as possible, and now you can get into a strike price on the convertible bonds at a much reasonable level and generate profit. So it makes complete sense, why they've gone for an ATM offering first and then the convertible notes. I understand everybody is crying about MSTR share price, but these are people that don't understand long-term holding and also don't understand how to keep a stock interesting. You can't just keep a stock flat on volatility to keep it interesting. You have to move the volatility up and down.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I guess when they come to market with a new capital plan in the future, whether, let's say that's a few months from now, maybe that's a situation where you could have both ATMs either alternating, going at the same time, any combination of these things with these different products.
Absolutely. Unless the institutional one fills up immediately. Mm-hmm. Right? The dividend shares are basically for institutional investors only. So if they see that there's a defined cap on what they can do, then they might just buy all of that allocation immediately. So we got to see what the demand appetite is for that over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I saw a note in a private conversation this morning that it looks like Fidelity has the strike STRK limited to investors that have over $500,000 in net worth or something to that effect. So it'd be interesting to see what all these details are.
Think about MSTR now going into your dividend portfolio. It's now in your income portfolio. It's now in your growth portfolio. It's now you can have exposure to MSTR and Bitcoin in all these different buckets of your portfolio. And that's a huge thing for institutional investors.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by OnRamp. Bitcoin custody is evolving. Both self-custody and single third-party custody come with significant risks and trade-offs. OnRamp is pioneering a new standard, multi-institution custody, which eliminates single points of failure, adding fault tolerance and redundancy to your setup. OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated, cold storage, multi-sig vault, guarded by 3 independent, institutional-grade custodians, none of which have unilateral control. Multi-institution custody removes the technical, mental, and physical burdens of private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. To learn more, schedule a consultation with the OnRamp team. Go to www.onrampbitcoin.com. I was looking at the annualized performance, and Saylor goes through this in the roadshow presentation. The annualized performance over the last 4 years since the date that all lives in our minds, which is August 10th, 2020. You have bonds at negative 5% annualized, real estate at 6% positive, gold at 7% positive. Does it at all surprise you, starting with British, that gold annualized over the last 4 years actually is outperforming real estate? Like, how do you think about that? Because that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a moment in time situation. I think it's a unique situation. And then I say that, and then I have to go back and evaluate, what the current position of real estate is. It is a completely and utterly saturated market. It's like the house that my dad and his father bought when they first moved to the United Kingdom, the growth rate that house has had over the last 30 years, if it was to match that growth rate for the next 30 years, it's gone from £5,000 to £500,000. And if it matches that growth rate for the next 30 years, it's going to be £56 million. It just doesn't make any sense. So real estate is now a saturated asset, and it's got to see some slowdown. So I guess that it's kind of surprising, but it's also not surprising when it comes to real estate. Gold is one of these trades that people have gone into because you've seen all this disturbance around the world going on, and that's going to balance out at some point as the Trump administration starts hopefully settling some of these differences around the world.
Yeah. So I think as far as real estate, I think real estate has a lot of problems with it because, yeah, like British said, everyone around me, all they do is they want to invest in real estate. They put all their savings in it. They buy a house they can't afford with a big mortgage, and the houses around me are like so unaffordable. I mean, who would ever even buy these things? It doesn't even make sense. And then also the market's broken where people are stuck at taxes that from the houses they bought 30 years ago. So then they can't sell it. And then so the whole market's broken and the price is way too high. So real estate to me is a horrible investment right now. It's great for people who bought it 30 years ago and now they're rich from it. But to me, that's not much upside. And then the gold play, I think, makes sense that it outperformed real estate because gold, especially the last couple of years, before people really started to understand Bitcoin, gold was kind of their view as the best store of value and the best hedge against inflation. So as the Fed and the governments were printing endless money, people just said, I'm going to buy gold to protect myself from that. And then as the education curve because we're hitting this parabolic phase where everyone's going to understand Bitcoin and start to realize it's the best store of value. So it's going to be like the internet in the early 2000s, in my opinion. So then once people realize Bitcoin already has a better stock to flow ratio than gold, it's easier to transact, send across countries. You can divide it easier. Basically, once they realize Bitcoin is gold from the 1800s, but built for a modern world, backed by the hardest technology ever created, with the hash rate always increasing. Once people really start to wrap their heads around that with Bitcoin, I feel like all the gold investors, it's going to take time. Maybe the boomers never fully convert, but over time, all of those gold investors are going to realize I should park my money into Bitcoin because that is actually a superior hedge against inflation and store of value, and it's built for a modern world with technology. So to me, it's actually very bullish for Bitcoin that gold has had a decent run the last couple of years.
Recently, I was speaking with Matt Cole, the CEO of Strive, and he is focused on AI, Bitcoin, and energy. How do you guys think those three play together and impact each other? I mean, maybe as a base, you need a lot of energy for AI, whether the US is ahead or China's ahead. And I would think that as these AI agents are starting to play together more and more, they would absolutely need Bitcoin as a neutral digital way to transact. You guys have any thoughts on all of that?
The question is, do they, right? Does AI need all this energy? Right? Because China has caused a big question mark on that today.
Mm-hmm.
Does AI need this energy? So the next question that all these AI data center investors are going to come out with is, it's going to need more and more energy, because as less and less energy is used, it's going to be utilized more and more. And they have a point, but there's going to be a saturation point. Does it need, if we can reduce the energy required by 50 times, right? Is that significant enough to increase the usage by 50 times? I don't know. That's something that we now need to evaluate. And why you're seeing NVIDIA and data centers stocks and stuff like Hut, for example, right? Hut is a Bitcoin miner that's been investing heavily in data centers for AI and doing these plays. They're down 27%. Cypher is down 29%. Core Scientific is down 34%. CLSK, which is just focused on Bitcoin, is down 14%, 15%. There's a reason for this. So that is a question that is way above my pay grade to answer, of whether we're going to need this amount of energy or not. So as far as that Bitcoin AI, I think as soon as you start lumping in that Bitcoin and AI are a good foundation of an investment portfolio for the next 20 years, the Bitcoin part is right. The other part just got a massive question mark on it. America's biggest company is down 18% today.
Yeah.
Just think, biggest AI company is down 18% today.
I think the problem with AI is we saw this massive bull run in the last couple of years. And to me, I'm not even convinced that this is even warranted. So AI could be growth, but it could also get rug pulled, like British is saying. Well, I probably won't get rug pulled, but I don't know if we'll see the growth in AI compared to what we'll see in. I really think Bitcoin is this once in a generation type opportunity where you buy it today, in 10 years, it'll probably be 100 times more with around $10 million. I don't think you buy NVIDIA stock today, it's going to go to $300 trillion market cap. So there's just way more upside at this point in Bitcoin and MicroStrategy than any of these AI plays, in my opinion.
What are your takes on, right before taking office, now President Trump launches a meme coin, then they launch Melania coin. I've heard conversations which I kind of agree with, that like altcoin season's kind of out the door, because MSTR, you could make the argument, is kind of the meme coin of this cycle. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, and how all of that potentially just kind of pulsates through the altcoin space, but maybe not a lot of new capitals going into that space versus some of it rotating into Bitcoin in the short to medium term?
I can start on this one. I think I have something interesting. Because I think at this point, it's very obvious to most people that all these altcoins are scams, and they have no really use case, and it's not a good store of value. It's nothing like Bitcoin. There's no second best, basically. But it is absolutely incredible when I talk to my friends in real life. They're not buying Bitcoin. They're buying Trump coin. They're buying these absolute terrible meme coins that are probably going to go to zero. And they feel comfortable with it because they feel like they missed Bitcoin. And I tell them, Bitcoin's going to hit $10 million in 10 years. There's no second best. Why are you messing around? It's because these people, they see on the internet a meme coin going up 100 times in an hour. and they think that's going to be them. But in reality, they're just going to lose their money. And Bitcoin, it might not be as exciting as these meme coins because you're just going to go up and down 300% in an hour. But the reality of the meme coin game is most people are going to lose their money. No, most people do not win. And the only way to really win is to rug pull your fans, in my opinion. And then you got to be like a scammer. We've seen that in the Bitcoin space this week. And Bitcoin's really the only way to play. These are all just knockoffs they have no fundamental value. So most of them are just going to go to zero. And it's sad to see all these average people that are my age think that they're smart investments when in reality, they're just going to lose their money.
When you're saying that your friends are putting money into Trump coin, is it more of an entertainment value, or are you saying, which I hope you're not, that they're like literally putting a substantial portion of their capital into an entertainment coin is how I view it?
I don't think they're putting a substantial amount, but maybe for them it is. They're probably putting a couple $1,000s, and for people just graduating college, a couple $1,000s could be a significant amount of the money they save that year. So it's not. I guarantee these people probably have more money in the S&P 500, but it's still, like, if you buy $5,000 of Bitcoin today, that could be worth $1 million in 20 years. And meanwhile, you're just watching it go to zero in a day because you wanted to mess around for entertainment. So it might not be a ton of money, but it's enough where any dollar amount you waste, in my opinion, is just very costly. So and there are, of course, people, I might not know them personally, but I guarantee there are absolute degens out there who are really putting everything in it and losing everything in a matter of days.
Yeah, I mean, look, going to the question that you asked first, which is about the president of the United States launching a meme coin. The perspective I put out there, I got, again, I'm not an American, so I didn't vote for the president, and I don't have the same amount of emotional attachment to this presidential election that Americans do. So I want to highlight that. I said it was a misstep. I think that if I'm going to be the president of the United States, I think if I have branded my name, I understood that it was a branding deal, right? Like he licensed the name Trump to someone, and that company decided to launch this meme coin, the day before the inauguration. I think if I was him, I would have probably said, nothing 30 days either side of the inauguration or something like that. So I think it was a gross misstep. Saying that, I think that the shitcoiners at this point have stormed the White House. I think that the idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve is now dead. I think that anyone who has donated money to the Trump campaign should be on the phone, and certainly any one of my friends that have donated money. I luckily know people who have donated money. I've been on the phone with them as much as I can to let them know that it is their duty to call the person that called them for money, to let them know and express their distaste towards a crypto strategic reserve. I think that we're at a point now where if you are making excuses for the president turning around and allowing a shitcoin to be a meme coin to be launched in his name, I don't think you have any moral grounding to say that anyone else should do it or not. At the end of the day, I think the president of the United States, the prime minister of the UK, should be held to a higher moral grounding and a higher moral standard than every other citizen in the land, right? And so, the drama that we've seen on Twitter was with Bitcoiners launching meme coins. What do you expect now? The president of the United States has set the tone. America is the home of shitcoins. We are now dealing in made in America shitcoins. That's what America is at this moment in time. That's what it's presented as. So if you care about Bitcoin and you're an American, trust me, if this was going on in the UK, I would be on the phone making phone calls to my representative to express my absolute distaste. Because I'll tell you something right now, the shitcoiners are making the phone calls, and the shitcoiners are sitting in the White House, and the shitcoiners have taken over the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And the idea is no more.
I want to push. I agree with most of what British said, but I want to push back a little bit. I don't think it's that bad that he's all into these shit coins, just because that shows me that this guy is extremely pro crypto. And yeah, he might buy some of the shit coins, which isn't ideal, but the fact that he's even doing this shows that. So here's these normies who think all crypto is a scam. Trump's on the absolute edge of this curve. You might be wrong to think the shit coins have any value, but to that shows me that he's going to buy a massive amount of Bitcoin for the U.S. government because he understands that it's the best crypto. So if he's bullish enough on crypto to buy all these shit coins, doesn't that mean that he is going to eventually buy a ton of Bitcoin for the U.S. government? And I think he's gone to the Bitcoin conferences. His son Eric Trump has met Michael Saylor. To me, it's obvious that Trump is going to buy a massive amount of Bitcoin for the U.S. government. And yeah, he might be messing around with shit coins and buying or starting a meme coin. That's not ideal by any means, but to me, that's a signal that this guy is so pro crypto and that he is going to buy a massive amount of Bitcoin for the U.S. government, sending Bitcoin to $1 million within the year, maybe, but within the next couple.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a personal question that you have to ask yourself. The problem with, in this world that we live in, where we've got all of our dopamine receptors completely fried because we've been attacked with social media, attacked with psyops, attacked with everything else for 2 generations now, is that you have no moral grounding, right? If what you're looking for is a price ascension on Bitcoin, yes, absolutely. Him being pro crypto is absolutely bullish for Bitcoin. What Bitcoiners are trying to make happen is to fix the 230 years of subjugation that's been going on as a result of fiat, as a result of this mechanism that's been used to control the souls of human beings to enforce them to do what you want them to do. That needs to happen with Bitcoin only. It is the only way for it to happen. So do I think that Trump being pro crypto is bullish for my Bitcoin bags? Absolutely. Do I think it's bullish for fixing and trying to fix the problems that we see with humanity and that we see with culture and that we see with society? No, I do not. I think hopefully Bitcoiners are right to the sense that, one day everything always leads to Bitcoin, but I don't see it at this point. I think, again, if you are an American, you are a voter, you are, supporting the Trump campaign, now is the time to get on the phone to your representative to express the absolute extreme distaste in anything else besides a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Can we all just admit real quick that XRP investors are the worst people? No, I'm just kidding. They're annoying. You have to admit, the XRP fanboys, they act like it's going to replace Bitcoin. They're the most delusional group out there.
Well, they seem to have the president of the United States ear more than Bitcoiners at this moment in time. So they're doing something right. Maybe we got to learn from them.
Oh, my God.
The Bitcoin for Corporations Conference is coming to Orlando May 6th and 7th. Receive 20% off admission by going to microstrategy.com, selecting Bitcoin for Corporations, and using discount code KOTZ at checkout, and I'll see you there. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Stampseed. If you're in cold storage, you know how important it is to protect your seed phrase. That's why I recommend you head over to stampseed.com and check it out for yourself. This seed phrase storage device is one solid piece of titanium. There are no loose pieces, and you can hammer your seed phrase in letter by letter. When you go to stampseed.com, use promo code TIM15 for a 15% discount across the website. That's TIM15. What's your take on, as these announcements over the first couple of days and now a couple of weeks of the new administration have come out, Saylor, obviously tracking with it and tweeting about the new crypto era, some people being a little bit upset about that messaging, kind of referring to Bitcoin, not crypto. And then, at least where my mind goes, is then the response from some Bitcoiners and MSTR enthusiasts and equity holders saying, look, this guy's playing 4, 5, 6, 7D chess. And by the way, he's doing something that's never been done before. So there is no handbook for how to go about this. And I guess just on a personal level, it's like you need to work with and get along with the people that are taking you in this direction. You guys have any thoughts on that?
I think Saylor's doing the absolute right thing for his position. And he should look at the end of the day, this is probably a losing battle for Bitcoiners. I think we are heading into an America that is multi-digital asset, right? And I think America views, or the administration views Bitcoin as one of those digital assets. Now, all of these Bitcoin is a digital asset, but these digital assets are not Bitcoin. Unfortunately, it seems that only Bitcoiners understand this, and there's a long battle yet to be waged and needs to continue to be waged against the good versus evil that is shitcoining. And this battle continues. It just is what it is. I thought we'd won, and I thought everyone was celebrating the first Bitcoin president, and clearly not. That's not what we have. Now, does this stay completely in line with what America is? Absolutely. America is pro-competition, pro-capital, pro-movement. And so that's what's going on here. The battle has not been won. America has just moved to the next stage. So we have to keep fighting for Bitcoin supremacy here. But, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the whole thing. And again, it re-enlivens my desire to continue spreading the message, because the battle of good versus evil rages on.
Yeah, my thoughts on this is that Saylor is smart. He understands, first of all, his number one duty is to MSTR shareholders. He understands that a pro-crypto president that's going to buy Bitcoin for the US government, that's bullish for MSTR shareholders like myself. So obviously, he's not going to be upset about that because, I mean, he has a duty to his shareholders. And also, I think Bitcoin maxis, I agree with Bitcoin maxis on almost everything, but I disagree with them that like every shitcoin or altcoin is terrible. I think there are a couple ones that have some use cases. Like I think Ethereum or Solana, I would never buy them, but I think they actually have.
What percentage of your portfolio do you have in cold storage Bitcoin?
No, 100% MSTR.
Right. Well, that's the fucking problem that you have as a 22-year-old dopamine addicted nerd.
26. But no, but I think XRP 100% a scam. But there are a couple of ones that could be decent.
Bitcoin. Why don't you have any cold storage Bitcoin?
Because I view MicroStrategy as more Bitcoin, so I just think it's going to go up more than Bitcoin.
Right. So if you
I should get cold storage Bitcoin eventually. I agree.
If you don't have cold storage Bitcoin, how can you make any judgment on what these other coins have any value or they don't?
That's a good point. I just kind of heard that they could have some value. So
right. Exactly. That's what most people have, right? And that's the thing that Bitcoiners have been fighting for forever, which is these coins they do not provide.
So but I heard that Solana is like a tech investment. That could be, it might not be but it could be like a decent, I'm not going to say it's horrible. It's nothing like Bitcoin, but don't you think this like XRP 100% a scam? Couldn't some of the altcoins be somewhat useful, or are they all just horrible?
Tell me how.
Well, isn't there something with payment processors or something on Ethereum, and then in Solana, isn't it some cool crypto chain or something you can use? I don't know. I'm just wondering. I'm playing devil's advocate here as a Bitcoin maxi myself, kind of with a MicroStrategy, but
you're not MSTR
I'm MSTR max. But so don't you think 100% XRP scam? I hate all those investors, but but I think that there could be a couple ones. Like, isn't Dogecoin technically decentralized or something, even though it's a meme coin? I just hear these things. We gotta at least hear these viewpoints. Okay, we gotta get out of the echo chamber. Will I own any of these coins? Absolutely not. But does that mean that it's horrible if like they could have some value in another way? Could they not?
Why? Give me one value. I said that to you before you went on your second rant, which is give me one value case.
For which one?
For what? Pick one. I don't care.
I'll pick Dogecoin. I don't own any, but isn't it useful for sending payments or something?
So why can't you do that with Lightning?
I guess you could. I'm just. Is it horrible? I'm just saying. Bitcoin could go to $10 million. Is it the end of the world if Dogecoin had a little bit of use case, or is it like
because what's going on here? Like I said, there's two battles going on here. The battle that you're talking about is the fiat battle and the fiat dollar value appreciation of Bitcoin. In that world, if Bitcoin goes to $10 million, and Dogecoin goes to $50,000, who gives a shit, right? I get that. I understand that. But what you need to understand as a young man is that the reason why your generation is as fucked as it is because of this tail end of 230 years of subjugation that's happened as a result of the fiat money that's been created. That's what Bitcoin is trying to stop. Bitcoiners are trying to stop that for you. And what you're saying is just give me the dollars.
If it wasn't for all this fiat criminal like manipulation, I probably wouldn't be in my parents' basement right now.
Completely agreed, right? And your parents, your parents' house, which is lucky enough to have a basement for you to live in, would not be as big as it is, right? But you'd be able to afford your own house at 26 years old. You should be able to, because when you can afford your own house, you can create your own empire. You can create your foundation. You can then go and take over the world that you need to. The reason why America today is completely fucked against DeepSeek and its AI platform is because of fiat financial subjugation that doesn't allow people to get out of their own way and start thinking about innovation like they could 40 years ago. That's what Bitcoiners are trying to fix.
It's actually pretty crazy to think about. If I were just to get a nice solid job, nothing crazy, but not a bad job. Let's say I made $100K a year and then I had to pay food expenses, had to pay rent, had to pay all this. I would have a girlfriend. I would literally save nothing. There is no chance I'd be able to buy an average house for like $2 million when I'm 10 years. And then because of this, everyone just wants to be close to the money printer because they don't want to actually provide any value. Because in a world with endless inflation, everyone just wants to work in finance because then they get paid for doing nothing. And then, so no one's actually innovating in our society because they just want to be close to the money printer. And that's what Bitcoin fixes. I agree with you. We need solid money, and we need Bitcoin to help end this ridiculousness.
So if you can say that and you clearly understand that, how can you ever say it's okay for these shit coins to exist? It is.
I just thought there was a little separate use case for them. Maybe they could be useful for sending payments behind the Uncle Sam tracking you or something. Not as a store of value, but couldn't some of these coins be useful as sending payments without Uncle Sam confiscating it for not being a liberal or something?
All right. Yeah. No, listen, if you think that now we're entering a different conversation. Now we're entering the conversation of the likelihood of the US government relinquishing control over its currency. That I do not think is going to happen, right? I do not think that happens. But do I think that the United States needs to focus exclusively on Bitcoin? Absolutely. And that's what we were told.
But we've seen these authoritarian governments in the last couple of years do things I never thought would be possible. We saw a trucker protest in Canada. They were literally freezing their bank accounts for doing peaceful protests. So COVID was really an eye opener for me because I realized how dictator-wise, I need a word for it, but basically I realized the governments can be communist.
What is dictatorial?
Yeah, whatever. But that, with how ridiculous the governments were during COVID, trying to lock us down, restrict us, force stuff on us, that really opened my mind on the possibility. Wait, what if everything's a scam? What if my U.S. dollar is a scam? And then I'm like, okay, Bitcoin's the best way to fight this. I'm all in. Give me MicroStrategy.
Right. And here's the thing that Bitcoin is trying to fix by getting rid of all these shitcoiners. Because which state do you currently live in?
California.
Right. Why do you live there? You live there because the fiat subjugation that's happened doesn't put you back against the wall as a 26-year-old man that has to live in his parents' basement and that cannot move out of California no matter how much you want to, being the liberal state that it is. And that's what Bitcoin does. It demonetizes all the bullshit so you can actually take control of that. That is why shitcoins are absolutely irrelevant and the absolute antithesis of what America should be standing for. And by the way, what America was promised during the election campaign. Where the fuck did all these shitcoiners show up from the day after the inauguration?
Yeah, these people. You're winning me over, British. Fuck these shitcoiners. Fuck Dogecoin. We gotta stop this once and for all. There's only one coin. There's no other use case. Bitcoin only. You convinced me, British.
This is the battle for people's souls. This is not about the battle for your dollar value appreciation. That's one part of it, and it will happen simply just because based on how financial physics works. But there is a deeper battle going on here. And anyone who thinks that they're going to sit around and have all these shit coins be a part of it and it's all hunky-dory and whatever, simply doesn't understand the value proposition of what Bitcoin can be for the world and what kind of utopia America can lead into the world.
So
at this point, there's one Bitcoin president, and that is Nayib Bukele, and that is it.
So I don't think you would do it either. But within any recent couple decades, I don't think there's any chance Bitcoin becomes a currency, but it's going to be more of a store of value, don't you think?
Yes, that's what I agree with that.
Yeah. But do you think in 50 years it could potentially become the world currency? Because I think maybe at the end of my lifetime it could.
I didn't know that 3 years, less a year after OpenAI released their model, that China would be able to release a model that is 50 times or 20 times less costly than OpenAI. I don't know what's going to happen in 50 years. This world.
Since we're talking about models, have you seen my model on Bitcoin and MicroStrategy? So let me walk through the fans through this real quick, just to give them a. So basically, my model, I've open sourced it to the world. Every time Bitcoin doubles, MicroStrategy 4x's. So basically, MicroStrategy is Bitcoin squared. So every time Bitcoin doubles, you can multiply MicroStrategy's current share price by 4. So when Bitcoin hits 1 million later this year, you can multiply MicroStrategy's current share price times 4 times 4 times 4, a little more than that, because it's more than 3 doubles for Bitcoin to hit 1 million. That means you can multiply MicroStrategy's current share price by more than 64 times, more like 80 times. So you end up by the end of this year with MicroStrategy around $30,000 per share in a $10 trillion company when you account for the new shares. So basically, that's my model, and it keeps going when Bitcoin hits $10 million in 10 years, whatever. So that's my model. I think British likes it.
Yeah, it's bullish. Okay, cool. If it's bullish, I like it. But,
is it bullish enough for you?
I think that one of the models that I asked Radu, who owns MSTR-tracker.com to create, is the EPS model, and he's done a really good job, right? He implemented this in 5. That guy is, talk about a smart guy. That guy is smart. We spoke about it, and 5 hours later, there was like a working, it was light, but it was a working model on there. Now he's developing it further. But you can go and see now that the FASB rules have changed on MSTR-tracker.com. You can go and see like what the growth rate of the MSTR is based on the earnings that are generated by the amount of Bitcoin that they're accumulating, and I think that's he's done a fantastic job with that site, and I think everyone should check it out. And then of course be as why not 5 times? You said it only goes up 4.
So what's funny is that's just kind of the trend I noticed, and I actually know Radu, and he actually likes my model, and he thinks it's actually very close to what his calculates the earnings per share, all that multiple stuff. But the 2 times for Bitcoin every time that happens, MicroStrategy 4x is actually very close to his very complicated model. So I want to do a quick talk about, like, just theoretically, let's say Bitcoin hit $1 million later this year. And let's say MicroStrategy, right now they have roughly $50 million of Bitcoin. So just theoretically, with the new FASB accounting rules, they can accurately account for the increase in Bitcoin price as earnings. So if Bitcoin 10x this year, that means MicroStrategy their $50 billion, assuming they didn't buy any more, which they will, would go to $500 billion of Bitcoin. That would be $450 billion of earnings that MicroStrategy can report. Give them a multiple on that. Let's say 10. That's $4.5 trillion company by year end.
That's
not even accounting
$1 million Bitcoin price.
Yeah, for $1 million Bitcoin price. So none of this is priced in. And then once that happens and they can accurately report that on their earnings, then all the hedge funds, normies, these boomers, they are going to have to realize what's going on. And then the algorithms will buy the stock, and then MicroStrategy squeezes to $10 trillion, number 1 company in the world. So will Bitcoin hit $1 million this year? I think so, maybe not, but I think it's going to hit it within the next 4. So we got to think about that.
So what happens if that happens and they realize that they've been rug pulled by the whole of the AI industry in the United States, and that Bitcoin is the safest and only reliable way to generate growth, and MSTR is one of those companies? What happens then?
Then Bitcoin hits 2 million.
Yeah, good. All right. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Going to the moon, baby. This guy LA Dozer, he does all the AI artwork for MicroStrategy. I love his long-term thesis for MicroStrategy. because when we go to Mars, we're going to need money there, but you can't really transport gold or dollars because it's too heavy. So he says we're going to transport Bitcoin to Mars because you can send it instantly. So MicroStrategy long term is going to be a Mars real estate development company, and he says I'm going to get a castle on Mars with a pool because I was bullish on MicroStrategy from the beginning. So I'm going to get rewarded. So if you're a MicroStrategy shareholder, British, you might get a castle on Mars too with me once MicroStrategy goes to Mars. You ready? You want to be my neighbor on Mars, British?
No, absolutely not.
Nice of him to offer, though.
Yeah.
British, you can live in my basement on Mars. How about that?
Great. That sounds like
How do you guys see the rest of the S&P and on down responding as they continue to see MicroStrategy just do what they're doing? Because they're already the 6th most optioned and 6th most liquid stock in the S&P 500 universe, which is the phrase that's now being used because they're not in the S&P 500 yet, but we'll talk about the S&P 500 universe. And they're the number one most optioned and most liquid stock as a percentage of market cap. Whether you want to talk about these AI developments or not, at a certain point, do these companies have this moment where they're like, well, whether we like it or not, we understand we need to put some Bitcoin on the balance sheet, or is it not that simple?
I think we have to go through this period of understanding whether or not, the market understands that Bitcoin is a growth vehicle or not, right? And that is going to be an education and a transitional in itself. If that happens, then yes, absolutely they will. But we need to get that to happen first.
Yeah, I think that all the other companies, all these other big major companies, QQQ, these guys are basically complacent with old innovations. And this happens throughout time. The biggest companies, they don't remain the biggest companies forever because they get complacent. They get non-innovative thinkers. They get boomers in there. These boomers don't understand Bitcoin. They're not going to buy it. They're not going to add to their balance sheet. The only one I think that could realistically buy it is Meta because Mark Zuckerberg's a Bitcoiner. For the most part, these old companies like Apple, Microsoft, these people are complacent. They're not going to be the leaders in 20 years. And MicroStrategy is going to destroy them because they are innovating through Bitcoin. So, but we don't need these companies because just like all the companies in the past that were number one 30 years ago, they're no longer number one because someone like Apple came around and made the iPhone. So Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy today is like Apple in 2007, but with 10 times the upside due to the absolute scarcity of Bitcoin. So I really think that MicroStrategy will become the biggest company in the world, and it will make these companies like Apple, Microsoft, who the other ones, even Meta, if they don't buy Amazon, it's going to make them all look like small paper, like penny stocks. like MicroStrategy will destroy these companies in 10 years because they're going to own way more Bitcoin. So it's up to these people, and they're like Microsoft. Less than 1% of them voted to buy Bitcoin. Well, that just shows you how early we are. These people have no idea what's coming, and they're going to get destroyed by MicroStrategy because they refuse to innovate and realize the value of Bitcoin. So at the end of the day, it's on these companies. They think they're all sitting pretty because they're the top companies in the world. But if you study history, you understand that doesn't last forever. If you're not creating new innovations or you're not utilizing new technology, just because you were the number one company in 2025 doesn't mean you're going to be the number one company in 2035. That's going to be MicroStrategy.
British. Ben Workman has a mental model that we're in this first of two phases with MicroStrategy, the first one being accumulation and the second one being kind of building on top of it with products and services. I'd asked Gladiator previously if he would diversify, so to speak, or buy other Bitcoin related equities, think Semler Scientific or others. But with Ben's kind of thesis, even if MicroStrategy isn't the best performing on a shorter time frame, call it year over year, maybe at zooming out, it could be. Do you have any thoughts on that? And if you would be buying other Bitcoin equities or just MicroStrategy or something that you're just kind of constantly evaluating?
Yeah, I'm constantly evaluating this. The only other position that I have some money in is Metaplanet in Japan because I wanted to see how that was going to roll out, and eventually I'll be consolidating that into MSTR. Um, the advantage that MSTR has is that first mover advantage. And then the second one is that significant amount of Bitcoin that they have on the balance sheet, which gives them optionality in the future. We haven't even started discussing what MSTR could do as far as potential income generation on the Bitcoin that they hold, right? Like if they, depending on, what developments happen with in kind and all these other things, there's a scenario where they could start making, you know, 0.5% a month, right? 6, 7% a year, um, on their Bitcoin positions very safely without putting their Bitcoin at risk. I'm not talking about staking and DeFi and all this bullshit. I'm talking about real TradFi solutions. And that would give them the ability to acquire even more Bitcoin, right? And that would certainly ramp up the valuation of the company. So, you know, I do not look at things in a very, very short window. I know there's a lot of people that are saying, for the last quarter, Semler Scientific has done X and MicroStrategy has done X minus whatever points. But the reality is Semler Scientific does not have a mandate to sell into the market $21 billion of stock in order to acquire Bitcoin. MicroStrategy does. And I don't think any of these other companies are going to get anywhere close to that in the near term, which is going to always put MicroStrategy MicroStrategy today has bought how many times more Bitcoin than Semler Scientific has on its balance sheet.
Yeah.
That,
So
that's the advantage.
yeah, so I agree. Let's make this quick. But I think when you think of MicroStrategy, you're thinking about all these Bitcoin companies. They're not just companies that hold Bitcoin. They're basically Bitcoin acquisition companies. Because you think of companies not of what they did in the past. Like you don't think of how many cars Tesla built in the past. You think of how many cars they're going to build in the future. So MicroStrategy is a Bitcoin acquisition company. They're trying to buy all the Bitcoin, and they got first mover advantage, like British said. And because they are this massive company at this point in the QQQ, et cetera, they're able to have way lower borrowing rates, which basically allows them to buy Bitcoin more efficiently than all these other companies. That being said, these other companies will still do great because they're still buying Bitcoin and on the Bitcoin standard Michael Saylor playbook. But will they do as well as MicroStrategy? In my opinion, probably not.
I'll throw it over to each of you if you have any closing thoughts. If you want to touch on anything that is on your mind that we didn't cover, and then maybe just mention where people can find you on X or elsewhere.
You want to start or me, British?
Go for it.
Okay, so you can find me on X, Gladiator on X, CF_trades. That's the only place I post. I'm on there all day. I'll look at all your comments and like them, and I try to interact with everyone. But then my closing remarks would be, this is a once in a generation opportunity. I really believe that. And with both Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, I believe we're going to hit the super cycle here with the ETF inflows. The boomers can now buy it in their retirements. We have the institutional adoption, MicroStrategy, Mara Ride, all these companies are trying to buy all the Bitcoin. And then on top of that, we got the strategic reserve coming with Trump buying, and the other countries are front running. We've never seen a demand shift like this in the history of Bitcoin. So I really think Bitcoin hits $1 million possibly this year within the next couple. And then when that happens, I think MicroStrategy, because they're always buying more Bitcoin, increasing Bitcoin per share, when Bitcoin goes parabolic, MicroStrategy will go double parabolic. And I really think MicroStrategy is the trade of the century. So, and all of this being said, you go on the internet, half the people are talking bearish, and I just think it's ridiculous. I really think this is Apple in 2007 with 10 times the upside due to the absolute scarcity of Bitcoin when we're talking about MicroStrategy. So yeah, just really, I think that you cannot be bullish enough. You are not bullish enough on MicroStrategy. If you can sleep at night right now, you do not understand what's about to take place with both Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. I think that we're literally on the brink of history with Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy will become the #1 company in the world, and I don't think anyone's ready.
That's pretty good, Tim. Don't you think so? He did a good job there. Look at him.
I like
Look
it.
at him go.
It seems like he might be bullish enough.
There
I'm
you
not
go.
bullish enough, but I'm trying. But I know one guy who's not bullish enough. This guy, British Hodl, he's getting his T levels up, and he needs to start predicting $30,000 per share MicroStrategy #1 company in the world by year end. Otherwise, you're not bullish enough, British. I'm just kidding.
Right. I don't know how to lead on from this. Right. I'm gonna look. at the end of the day, if you want to find me, you go to YouTube, you go to Twitter, you type in British Hodl. It's on Twitter. It's the one with the blue check mark. On YouTube, you find my face, and you'll find me. The sad reality of this whole situation is, like I've been telling people, if Bitcoin is now basically a savings technology for most people in the world. If the sad reality of this whole thing, and why I've been shouting about getting to 1 Bitcoin for the last, 18 months to 2 years, is that getting to 1 Bitcoin is now only applicable for 0.6% of the world's population, approximately. So I think the overwhelming majority of what I'm about to say and what I am saying and what you've heard is that you've missed it. You have completely fucked this up. Now, that's going to touch you in one of two ways if you're listening to this. Either you're going to look at it and go, oh, I've missed it. I'm going to go grab another drink. Or you're going to say, fuck you, British Hodl. I have not missed this, and I'm going to come and I'm going to secure my children's future. I'm going to secure the future of my last name. I'm going to secure what I need to secure, which is 1 Bitcoin. That is your North Star. My message is never going to change. You get to 1 Bitcoin or you die trying. It's as simple as that. And unfortunately, for 99.4% of the entire world's population, they have completely and utterly fucked that one up. So, the ball is even more in your court than before, because at least before you could say, oh, there wasn't education, there wasn't this, that, and the other, because I could still afford it. Now you can't afford it. Now you need to decide how to get creative if you're going to catch up to this. And so either Bitcoin turns into a savings tool for you and you're just an entity, on the sidelines being entertained by all of this, or you're actually going to be a player and you're going to get to that 1 Bitcoin at any cost. So we'll see what happens and see who manages to do that. It is what it is. That's the effect of absolute finality of scarcity, and it's now coming real.
So British is absolutely right. I just want to give some quick optimism for the average person who maybe doesn't have 1 Bitcoin yet. You are still early and you might be late. Obviously, it would have been better if you bought Bitcoin at 50K or 30K, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think we're about to hit the parabolic phase of this S curve, like internet in 2000. And when Bitcoin hits $10 million in 10 years, you're not going to be thinking, wow, I'm sorry I bought Bitcoin at 100K instead of 90K. You're going to be happy you bought it regardless. So yeah, it would have been obviously better if you bought it at a lower price, but we're still very early. And I don't think these prices are, British agrees with me, of course, but we're still early and this thing is going to go parabolic here. So get Bitcoin while you can while it's still under $1 million, because these days are numbered.
British.
Tim, we need to start a campaign of get Gladiator to 1 Bitcoin, because this kid is sitting here talking all this bullish shit about Bitcoin. He doesn't own a single fucking Satoshi to save his life. And I think we need to start a campaign of get Gladiator to 1 Bitcoin, because this is unbelievable. I can't believe there's 0 Bitcoin in cold storage right now, and he's smiling this big. Can you imagine?
All right.
It's sickening.
We're going to have to get the community to rally around this and figure out how to get this done.
Get Gladiator to 1 Bitcoin. That I can get behind that. I don't mind Bitcoin. I'm just fully ported to MSTR right now.
British Gladiator, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim. This was a pleasure. I'll see you guys next time.